Walters will be open at 9 a.m. on Thursday, July 4th, ahead of the 11 a.m. holiday game. Make sure to swing by Walters before seeing James Wood and the Nats.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Lindor leading off second. Great speed. Here's the pitch. Swinging a ground ball. Fair. Base hit down the left field line. Rounding third is Lindor. He will come in to score. Wood up with it. Fires a strike into second. Holding it first with a base hit to tie the game is Brandon Nimmo. And it's now the Mets 2 and the Nationals 2. And Hunter Harvey has suffered his second blown save of the year and of the week.
So runner at second for Alonso. The 2-1 is launched to left field. Wood going back to the track at the wall, and it's gone. 7-2 Mets. Alonso's 18th. Last night they scored 6. Tonight they've scored 5.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024. Along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. To borrow from a certain former New York Mets manager, Yogi Berra, the Nats on Tuesday evening against the Mets experienced deja vu all over again, as a night after the Nats allowed 6 runs in the top of the 10th, the Nats allowed 5 runs in the top of the 10th. Monday evening, a 9-7 10-inning loss to the Mets at Nationals Park. Tuesday evening, a 7-2 10-inning loss to the Mets at Nationals Park. The Nats have lost the first 2 games of this 4-game series. The Nats now have lost 7 of their last 8 games, and the Nats for this regular season now are 39-46. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by Mason Kalfas and his team of 10 legal recruiters at Zenith Legal in Washington, D.C. Check out Mason's website today, zenithlegal.com, or call or text Mason anytime, 202-486-3535. The Nats starting pitcher on Tuesday evening, DJ Herz, was superb, but the Nats bullpen and the Nats offense on Tuesday evening were quite bad. Nats relievers now over the first 2 games of this series have combined to allow 14 runs, 10 earned in 8 2/3 innings. Mark, the Nats in each of these first 2 games of the series have gotten good starting pitching. It has been the other stuff that has been the problem.
I think it does show you, Al, the formula they established early this year for how they were going to win games. Good starting pitching, just enough hitting, great relief pitching. It's a very small margin for error there. And if any one of those 3 things doesn't work for you, you're kind of in trouble. And they don't have a lot of other ways to win games. And so even when they've gotten tremendous starting pitching from Mackenzie Gore and DJ Herz, it hasn't been enough because, number one, they aren't coming close to hitting enough. Certainly not in regulation. And they're asking that bullpen, which we've talked about, has been used a lot, has been relied on a lot, is in the middle of a stretch where there are no off days. And they're asking them to be perfect, and they haven't been perfect. Now, they've been really bad in the 10th innings, both these games. But at some point, how about giving them a little more cushion to work with? That, to me, is the bigger issue. I wish the bullpen was perfect, but they're not. And it's a lot to ask of them to be perfect. So to me, the answer is try to score some more runs. Give them a 4-run lead for a change. Maybe Davey doesn't have to keep calling on the same 3 guys late in games. It's wearing on them. And we talked about this in Colorado, that would there be a domino effect of all this? I think we're still feeling it.
The offense is not good. We have come to know that. That doesn't make it any more acceptable or digestible. But, watching this game, a 10-inning game, the Nats put up 2 runs over the 10 innings, a mere 6 hits over the 10 innings. The 6 hits, a double and 5 singles, 3 walks, 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. The Nats over these first 2 games of the series have been out-homered by the Mets 4-0. And so you look at your home run leaderboard for teams in this regular season. The Nats and the Miami Marlins are tied for dead last in the majors, 68 home runs. That is it. The offense, big-time problem for sure. And the Nats bullpen. See, here's the thing with the bullpen. Is what we're seeing just the bullpen being in a slump, in a rut, or is the bullpen coming back down to earth? Is this the bullpen carriage turning back into a bullpen pumpkin? And time will tell on that. We certainly are seeing Hunter Harvey struggle right now. And we have seen this bullpen really get God in this series so far. Tuesday evening, 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 6 runs, 5 earned in 4 and a 3rd inning. So the bullpen actually got off to a good start in this game. Dylan Floro was quite good. 1 1/3 perfect innings, 2 strikeouts. Came into the game top of the 6th, runner on first, 2 outs, Nats up 2-1. And Floro generated a big strikeout, a cold strikeout of the Mets number 5 batter, Francisco Alvarez, who was having a really good season. But then Hunter Harvey happened. Top of the 8th, Harvey allowed a run. He gave up a 1-out opposite field double by Francisco Lindor off the left field wall, and then gave up a 1-out opposite field RBI single by Brandon Nimmo through the left side of the infield to tie the game at 2. Second consecutive evening on which Harvey struggles. He and that Nats loss on Monday evening, a disaster in the top of the 10th, during which he officially allowed 5 runs, 4 earned in 2/3 of an inning. Harvey now has allowed at least 1 run in 4 of his last 5 appearances. Then we got Kyle Finnegan, who for a second consecutive evening tossed a perfect top of the 9th to preserve a tie. It was odd how this game in so many ways mirrored game 1 of the series, but Finnegan on Tuesday evening, a perfect top of the 9th to preserve a 2-all tie. But then it was Robert Garcia's turn to be a disaster in the top of the 10th. He allowed 5 runs, 4 of which were earned. He gave up a leadoff opposite field RBI double by Jose Iglesias to right field for a 3-2 Mets lead. Gave up a 2-out first pitch opposite field RBI double by Brandon Nimmo to left field for a 4-2 Mets lead. Gave up a 2-out RBI single by Mark Vientos to left field for a 5-2 Mets lead. And then came the exclamation mark, a guy who really has become a Nationals killer. Garcia gave up a 2-out 2-run homer by Pete Alonso to left field for a 7-2 Mets lead. 17 games in 17 days until the All-Star break. That is the stretch that the Nats are in the midst of. No scheduled off days until the All-Star break. A lot is being asked of this bullpen. It, for the most part, has answered the call this season. These last 2 games, the phone has kept ringing. The call has not been answered.
Yeah, and even, throughout that road trip, there were plenty of significant struggles along the way. And so it does feel like this is a cumulative thing. Now, you hope that, like you said, it's a blip and, just a rough stretch and they get it back on track. The problem is the best thing for most of these guys would be a day off. And that's not going to happen, at least based on the schedule. Maybe they get a rain out, but then that could lead to a doubleheader. The only other option is for a starter to go the distance or for Davey to take a day where he says, no matter what happens, I'm just going to use a couple other guys or one other guy, ride it out and just try to give everybody else a day off and let them reset. That's not an easy thing to do. Certainly not with the makeup of this bullpen as it is, as we've discussed. So it's a tough spot. I don't think there's a good answer to it. I know there are fans saying, why are you going back to Hunter Harvey again in the 8th inning after what happened the night before? Who else are you going to at this point? Derek Law? Tanner Rainey? Jordan Weems? What are your options at that point? And by the time you get to the 10th, you've already used up Floro, Harvey, and Finnegan. Now, remember, you asked the other night, what about Finnegan going multiple innings? So didn't do it on Monday, so he was perfectly fresh on Tuesday, got through the 9th on 10 pitches. I thought to myself, well, maybe you could put him back out there for the 10th. Doing that probably knocks him out for sure on Wednesday, but you try to win this game, so maybe you could have done that. It was, though, the lefty portion of the Mets lineup, so if you're going to use Garcia at any point, that was probably the spot to do it. He just wasn't any good and allowed that to turn into such a big inning. He had 1 run in and 2 outs. And if he just gets 1 more out, not that big a deal. You still have a chance with the runner in scoring position in the bottom of the 10th. It was the succession of 2-out hits, double, single, homer, that just turned this into another disaster of a 10th inning.
Yeah, in real time, I did say to myself, boy, Finnegan, only 10 pitches in that perfect top of the ninth on Tuesday evening. If ever you're going to ask him to work multiple innings in an appearance, wouldn't this be that spot? And Davey Martinez did not do that. And, Finnegan probably is going to be down, I would think, for Wednesday evening anyway. So if you have him up and he's pitching and he's looking good, why not try to push it a little bit and get at least another out or two from him in that 10th inning? But look, bottom line, it can't just be one guy on whom you can rely. So even if Finnegan pitches well in that 10th inning, who knows where we are with this bullpen, even if that happens. Like, you need multiple guys coming through. That was the thing when the bullpen was going well. You had 2, 3, 4 guys about whom you felt good. Right now, not so much. Right now, it feels like it's Kyle Finnegan and cross your fingers.
Yeah, and that is unfortunate and not shocking necessarily. You hope that there'd be at least a couple others. I guess Floro has, for the most part, continued to be good, but you can only ask for so much from him. But Law has had his struggles, certainly, with runners in scoring position. But I keep coming back to this idea of they have 2 guys, certainly, that they just don't trust in situations of consequence, in Tanner Rainey and Jordan Weems. And they have stuck with them. Rainey's been better lately. Weems has not been. At some point, you either have to say, we're putting them into high leverage spots, or you have to say, do we need to part ways here and find somebody else? Now, I don't know if there's anybody at AAA just knocking on the door that desperately needs to be brought up here. But at some point, we talk about how much they're calling on these guys. Well, they're really calling on 6 of them, even 5. Jacob Barnes doesn't get that much work in big spots. At some point, you got to use everybody that you have. And so either you put them out there and hope for the best. And if you can't do that, then at some point you have to say, we need to bring in somebody else who we think we could trust in those spots.
What about Hunter Harvey? His ERA for the regular season has ballooned over these last few appearances. You can forget about him being on the All-Star team at this point, and he very much is pitching his way out of being a trade chip to whatever extent the Nats were ever going to entertain that. I always thought that they should, and this is part of the reason why, because these relievers, man, it's like day trading in the stock market. When the stock is up, you sell. It's as simple as that. These guys are so fickle, they can lose it like that. And it seemingly is happening with Harvey. With him, of course, there's that substantial injury history. So you worry about, well, is he ailing? Do we know anything about why he's struggling so much right now?
I don't feel like, from what I see and what I gather, that there's anything physically going on there. I think in some cases he is maybe overthinking it on the mound. We know he's got an electric fastball. And I feel like a lot of what he's been giving up here lately has been on off-speed stuff, splitters, sliders. And I get it. There are times that he gets ahead with the fastball and then they start fouling it off and it builds up the pitch count. And you're saying, all right, I need to try to fool him with something else. But sometimes you have to read the situation and understand they're not hitting your fastball. So yeah, you might have to throw a few extra ones to finally get him. But until they prove they can hit it, just stick with it. You don't have to overthink this. You don't have to try to make the perfect pitch with something that's not your best pitch. You talk about all the time, get beat on your best pitch. And I think right now, sometimes he's not doing that. So that may have something to do with it. But again, it's a lot of work. And even if he's not injured, and I don't have reason to believe that he is, just the grind of it all, of pitching every other day for 3 months, it's going to happen at some point. And so I would love to say, hey, give him a couple of days off to just physically and mentally reset. They just need to get themselves into a game in which you don't feel like you have to use him. And that's a tough thing because, as we've noted, almost every game they play is close. They don't play a lot of blowouts one way or the other.
Hey, are you a law firm partner stuck on an underperforming team while the rest of the competitors are spending big and winning big? Well, you don't have to stay on your 60-win team. Nats Chat sponsor Mason Kalfis and his team specialize in placing partners and associates at medium-sized and large law firms in Washington, D.C. and across the country. Staying at a firm too long is often a recipe for being underpaid. Explore your options today with Mason Kalfis. Call Mason today at 202-486-3535. That number again, 202-486-3535.
Tim Shover is here to tell you about Game Time. Later this summer, acts at Merriweather Post Pavilion include Hootie and the Blowfish in Rockville's own OAR. If you need tickets for the right price, check out the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Here's your Dylan Cruz and Brady House report for the games played on Tuesday. In AAA, Cruz hit leadoff while playing center field, 2 for 5 with a pair of RBIs, a single and a double. And in AA, House hit cleanup while DHing. He went 0 for 2 while drawing a walk. His OPS this season is at .738. Now back to the show.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Herz, the wind, the kick, and he fires. Swing and a miss. He got him with a changeup. That's 10 strikeouts for DJ Herz. Second consecutive home start. The DJ fans double digits.
Well, there was a significant bright spot for the Nats in this 7-2-10 inning loss to the Mets on Tuesday evening, and that bright spot was DJ Herz. He allowed 1 run in 5 2/3 innings with 10 strikeouts versus no walks, and the 10 strikeouts versus no walks, that may not have even been the most impressive aspect of his outing. He gave up 5 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 3 singles. But how about this? The extent to which DJ Herz in this game threw strikes. 92 pitches, a whopping 70 strikes versus just 22 balls, a strikes to balls ratio of better than 3-1. You get a strikes to balls ratio of 2-1. That's really good. Better than 3-1. That is rare, man. And DJ Herz did that in this game. The only run that he allowed came in the top of the 6th, during which he gave up a leadoff homer by Francisco Lindor to left field on a 1-2 pitch to cut the Nats' lead to 2-1. But otherwise, Herz was outstanding, reminiscent of what he did just a few weeks ago, that 4-0 Nats win over the Miami Marlins at Nationals Park on June 15th. Herz in that game, 6 scoreless innings, 13 strikeouts versus no walks. It's an odd deal with DJ Herz. So it was on June 4th that the Nats announced that they had recalled him from AAA Rochester. He, since being promoted to the majors, has made 6 starts. He, over 2 of the starts, has been outstanding. The start on Tuesday evening, that start against the Marlins, you combine those 2 outings, 1 earned run, 11 2/3 innings, 23 strikeouts, no walks. Herz over the other 4 starts really hasn't been that impressive. 13 earned runs, 15 1/3 innings, 14 strikeouts, 7 walks. But we are seeing with this guy an upside, that when he is at his best, he can be sensational.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's going to be a matter of just trying to get as many of these kind of games as you can out of him and minimize the bad ones. Or, like we talked about last year with Mackenzie Gore, can you avoid the blow-up starts? And on the nights when you don't really have it, just be good enough and give your team a chance. When he's on, he is really on, and it's been such a thing to see. The idea that this guy, based on what we knew about him coming into the year, that he would be the best strike thrower on the team, one of the best in the majors, is mind-blowing. That was always his issue, was that he was all over the place. They knew he had good stuff, but could he command it? And so the work that he's done, and he talked about what he did at AAA in the last few starts before he got called up and what he's continued to do here, keeping the ball in the strike zone. It's been mostly fastball changeup, the occasional breaking ball, and it's really effective. And I think somewhere along the way, that light bulb went off in his head, and he realized, especially at this level, that his stuff is good enough to get big league hitters out. Just don't help them. Just get it in the strike zone. Your stuff is good enough. And it's such a revelation. And you want every pitcher who goes out there on a big league mound to recognize that and feel that. Not everybody has the best stuff to get away with it. I think he does have the stuff. It's so impressive. It's been so much fun to watch. You just hope now he can bottle that up and duplicate that on a somewhat regular basis and avoid those other bad starts, because if he can do that, he's got a chance to really do some things up here.
The degree to which we have seen DJ Herz, Jake Irvin, and Mitchell Parker throw strikes, like, you cannot say enough good things about that. You cannot throw those guys enough bouquets for them doing that. There is a maturity for those guys beyond their years in terms of major league service time when it comes to doing that. That is so impressive and so encouraging. If you just can do that as a pitcher, that puts you in such favorable spots. These guys are doing that, and we're seeing the results. They have been good.
Think about all the pitchers we've watched over the years here. Some much better pedigrees when they came in, threw the ball harder, had better breaking pitches, whatever it was. And how often, as you watch them throw, 97 pitches in 5 innings, that you're just screaming at the TV, just throw strikes, just throw strikes. And they could never get to that point where they did it. To see 3 young pitchers doing that so well, and especially, Irvin was up here last year, but especially Parker and Herz in such a short amount of time. It's really remarkable. Kudos to them. Kudos to the staff at both the big league and minor league level for helping them figure this out, how to do this. This has been by far the best development of the season. I know there's a lot of things right now that are frustrating to people. I get it. I feel that as well. But if nothing else, the development of the young starting pitching is going to give them a chance in the long run that I just don't know that we really thought they were going to have. If this team was going to ascend to where we thought it was going to get to, I don't think any of us saw it happening in the manner in which it looks like it may happen.
70 strikes versus 22 balls. That was a jaw dropper. James Wood in his second Major League regular season game here on Tuesday evening. He was the Nats starting left fielder and number 6 batter. 0 for 3 with a walk. Got caught in an attempted steal of second base. So Wood in the bottom of the 9th drew a leadoff 6-pitch walk, but he then got caught in an attempted steal of second base. He beat the throw. He was safe, but he then slid off the bag and got tagged out. So that certainly stood out from his evening. But to me, what stood out more than anything was this. He hit balls hard, really hard. In fact, James Wood per StatCast had the 2 highest exit velocities of the game, a 107.8 mile per hour ground out in the bottom of the 4th and a 111.6 mile per hour ground out in the bottom of the 6th. What'd you think about game 2 for James Wood?
Boy, it is something to watch, and you want to see more of it. And the other thing to keep in mind, up until the final at bat of this game, it was 8 straight plate appearances for him in the major leagues, all of them against lefties. So he hasn't even had a chance until that last at bat when he drew the walk in the 9th to face a righty. He's finally going to get to face a starter who's a righty on Wednesday. So this, in theory, should be a disadvantageous matchup for him. And instead, he's showing he can hit the ball hard. Now, I'm sure the pessimists out there are going to say, yep, just another national hitting the ball hard on the ground. Whoopee, great job. Give him some time. I'm not too worried. I don't think they're too worried about his ability to elevate the baseball. That 111.6 in the 6th inning, I'm pretty sure I tried to look it up during the game. I'm not sure if I got this 100% right, but I think it's the second hardest hit ball by any national this year. Joey Meneses hit one at 114. I think this was the second hardest hit of the season by anyone. We should not be surprised. I would expect more of this from him. You hope as he gets some more experience, faces some right-handers finally, that he starts to elevate it a little bit. But the stat line for him over 2 games isn't going to blow you away. But just watching him, the approach, the skills, it does make you see what this guy is and make you believe that he can be everything that he's supposed to be. Just give it a little time here. And I do think Davey hinted that on Wednesday he may get to move up in the lineup a little bit and face a righty in more prominent spot, because I think we have to admit that batting James Wood behind Ildemaro Vargas is not really working out so well. He tends to end up leading off every inning because Vargas keeps hitting into the 3rd out. I don't think James Wood has come up to bat with a runner on base yet in the big leagues. You'd like for that to change.
Yeah, that probably does need to change. And regarding Wood oversliding the second base bag, it was almost comical. He is such a big human being, 6'7", 234, that you see this monstrosity of a body sliding at a second, and it's almost like he doesn't necessarily know yet how to totally control his body, and so he slid too hard, he slid too fast, and he overslid the bag. And as odd as it sounds, you do need to sort of learn how to control your body when you're doing something like that, because, he's not one of these diminutive, 5'10" type base dealers, like 6'7", 234. He's got to put some thought into how he maneuvers himself into second base.
Yeah, and, again, he's 21, and you hope that he will learn this over time. One thing that he could maybe start doing, and I think a lot of their guys could start doing, they seem to tend to slide to the back of the base. And I understand you're trying to get more around the tag, make it a further swipe for the shortstop or the second baseman. If you just go straight into the bag, that's going to help stop you. And maybe your hand holds onto the bag, because what happened to him was the hand overslid the bag and then his foot got to it, but there was that split second where nothing was touching the base and Lindor held the tag the whole time, and that's why he was out. So these are the finer points. Hopefully that's all the kind of stuff he needs to learn, and he will, and it'll end up being great. But as he pointed out, in the 2 games he's played now that he's experienced in the big leagues, he's come to realize these games are very tightly contested and every little thing matters. And that was a big moment in the game. If he's safe, he's on second base, nobody out in the bottom of the 9th, and a chance to win the game there instead of going to extra innings. He's learning quickly how important every single little thing is. Hopefully he takes that to heart and becomes better at it.
Hey, it's Al Galdi to tell you about the latest offer from Window Nation for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. Get 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. This is better than any offer that you'll hear about regarding the trade deadline. I promise you. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation is outstanding. Every Window Nation window undergoes a 20-point inspection. Window Nation has a 96% customer satisfaction rating, and 96% of Window Nation windows installed require no follow-up service. Take advantage of this special offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com. That's 866-90Nation or windownation.com. And make sure that you tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you.
The best way to learn a language? Immersion. Living where the language is spoken and using it every day. But if that's not in the cards this year, you could still learn a language the second best way. And that's with Babbel. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. Here's a special deal for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners for a limited time at babbel.com/natschat. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/natschat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/natschat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Abrams has been picked off 8 times this year, caught 9 times stealing. He started to go, and he's going to be picked off. The throw to first, and he's out.
Speaking of outs on the base paths, C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter on Tuesday evening. 2 for 5 with an RBI infield single and another infield single. But he got picked off again. Listen, we are as tired of talking about this as you are of seeing this, but we're not going to just start ignoring this. He has got to get his arms around this issue. C.J. Abrams in the bottom of the first, a leadoff infield single up the middle, but he then moments later picked off at first base for the first out in yet another instance of Abrams getting picked off. Now, we did have an RBI single. Abrams in the Nats, 1-run third, full count, RBI, infield single up the middle for a 1-0 Nats lead. A lot of infield singles by the Nats in this game. The Mets infield defense really was not that impressive. These infield singles, they should not have all been singles. They were. Credit the Nats for hustling, but the Mets had some problems fielding in this game. But geez, man, CJ Abrams, can you stop getting picked off? There is a message that is not getting through to him from Davey Martinez, from this coaching staff. That's becoming apparent. Something needs to change with this because Abrams is too good to keep doing this.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, you look back to last year, he was 47 of 51 on stolen base attempts. So it's not like he just fluked his way into a great season or that he was stealing a lot of bases while also getting thrown out. He was incredibly successful and efficient at it. And for whatever reason this year, that has not been the case. Now, in the one in this game, they thought that Sean Manaea had balked, although they admitted afterwards they went back and looked at it and he was just on the line and like just good enough that it was okay. But what you see with these is he decides he's going to go and he's just starting that split second too soon. You have to make sure the pitcher is going home before you take off. Now, if you do that and you get the jump and you realize, I'm not going to make it, hit the brakes, go back. It's okay. You can do that as a base runner. I think there's this feeling of like, well, I have to be so quick because they know we're trying to steal, and you end up leaving too soon and these pitchers are aware of it and catching you. And so it's got to change. I agree. This team does not do enough offensively to be able to get away with this stuff. If they were scoring 5-6 runs a night, hitting home runs all over the place, you'd gloss over it a little bit. But where they are right now, not at all. They simply cannot afford to do this, and they cannot afford to keep making the same mistakes over and over.
And it doesn't reflect well, obviously, on CJ Abrams and the players who keep getting picked off, but it does not reflect well on Davey Martinez. It does not reflect well on the first base coach, Gerardo Parra. This team collectively has got to figure this issue out. This has been going on for weeks. It's gone on for way too long. All right, so, we had all the things with this game, but the truth is that the most significant Nationals item from Tuesday may well have been something that we learned of prior to the game. Starting pitcher Josiah Gray is not coming back anytime soon.
We're just going to shut him down and not push this thing.
This has become a very concerning situation. So Gray's been on the 15-day injured list since April 9th, retroactive to April 6th, with a right elbow / right forearm flexor strain. He has been in the midst of a minor league rehab assignment that, as we have discussed, has gone on a lot longer than had been anticipated. His latest outing was a bad outing. This past Sunday afternoon, pitching for AAA Rochester, 7 runs in 3 innings, and his velocity in the outing was down. Well, Davey Martinez, in a pregame session with Mark and others on Tuesday afternoon, revealed that Gray in that outing experienced right elbow discomfort. He is to undergo an MRI exam, although not until the All-Star break. But the bottom line is that he has been shut down indefinitely. And now the mind really starts to wander. The initial ailment, right elbow / right forearm flexor strain, can be a precursor to needing Tommy John surgery or a UCL surgery of some kind. We know that back in April, it was said, hey, things don't look that bad. He doesn't need surgery. Now it feels like all bets are off. Now you really do start to be concerned that surgery might be where this is headed. This does not feel very good right now with Josiah Gray.
No, I don't think there's any way to paint this in any other way. Now, it's possible that everything is going to turn out to be fine, but even in a best case scenario, they're shutting him down for a period of weeks and you would have to start him all up again. So it's not like he's coming back anytime soon like we thought he was on the verge of. But let's talk through a few things here because we did get to talk to Josiah himself and he explained what was going on. 2 starts ago in Rochester, the really good one, 6 innings, 1 run. He said he felt great in that start, both in terms of physically how he felt, but also the way that he pitched. He was really encouraged by that one. He had not had any issues in that one or any of the previous rehab starts. And then he goes to make another start in Rochester on Sunday, and he said it was between innings that he felt fatigued, felt like his arm wasn't recovering the way that he would normally expect it to or the way that it had in previous ones. The velocity obviously was down. He was averaging 91.9 miles per hour on his fastball. He only went 3 innings. He gave up 7 runs. Stuff wasn't coming out the way that he expected to. He mentioned immediately what he was feeling. He came back to DC. He's met with the team. Now, the timing of what's going to happen now, we're getting kind of an odd signal and a little bit mixed messages here. Davey Martinez said that MRI wouldn't be happening for another 2 weeks till the All-Star break and that he's going to go visit Dr. Keith Meister in Dallas, who performs a lot of Tommy John surgeries and other prominent surgeries like that. Josiah kind of threw out something about wanting to get multiple opinions on what's going on. I would not be surprised. I don't know this for a fact. I would not be surprised if he's already had an MRI here and the result of that came back maybe inconclusive or showed potential of something. And the idea now was, let's give it a couple weeks to calm down, let the swelling go down, whatever may be going on there. Let's send you out to Dallas over the All-Star break. They'll do probably the enhanced MRI with the dye where you get a better look at what's going on and then have the real expert look at it and decide what needs to happen next. Again, maybe it turns out not to be anything, but reading between the lines and having covered enough of these over the years, the red flags are all over the place. Josiah himself didn't seem, especially encouraged by any of this. Davey Martinez did not seem especially encouraged by any of this. It's going to be a few weeks until we know the true answer to it all. But even in a best case scenario, he's going to be out for a while. And in a worst case scenario, he's going to be out for over a year. And that is really, really unfortunate.
You feel for the guy. He had never been on a major league injured list until this season. And now it may be that he ends up not pitching again this season. So certainly wish him all the best. And, as we had this Gray news, we also had something else that kind of got buried by the Gray thing. And that is what's happening with Cade Cavalli. So he's going to be out for a while longer. His rehab process has been paused again due to him recently being sick. And so he's going to have to build up his arm to at least a certain degree here once again. So he's been on the 60-day injured list since March 26 due to his recovery from Tommy John surgery that he underwent in March 2023. Do we have any sense of what is a realistic timeline at this point for Cade Cavalli?
So Cade, obviously he's sick. He was sick. So we're just going to wait for him to get fully healthy.
No, I can just tell you that they've kind of stopped the rehab assignment for both guys. So they're going to be allowed to start it up again. He had the flu. It was pretty bad. He's back now. He says he feels fine. I think they've maybe learned a little lesson from some previous guys who got sick early in the year and they tried to come back and it didn't go well. And so they said, you don't want to now have him start to build up his body and his arm again when he was that sick. And so it is like starting from scratch. It has got to be agonizing for Cade, who kept thinking he's on the cusp of finishing a very long rehab process to come back. I'm sure the Nationals are saying to themselves, it's not worth taking any chance here of anything else going wrong. And so we're going to take the slow and steady route, as frustrating as that may be. So it's going to be a while for him. I mean, I don't think there's anything big picture to be worried about with him. It's just the idea of we really wanted to see Cade Cavalli in the big leagues and find out what he can be as they finish out the rest of this season and make their plans for next season. So he will be here to pitch at some point, but it's really unfortunate the way that has worked out. And between Josiah Gray, Trevor Williams being on the IL and still being a ways away, I'll tell you what, Patrick Corbin, he's used up 8 of the 9 lives, but he has not used up the 9th life. He is still here. He is still in the rotation. And at the moment, I don't see any replacement coming anytime soon for him.
Well, and it does make you appreciate his durability, if nothing else, that Corbin has not gotten injured during this time of being bad, yes, but that he has stayed healthy. I do give him credit in that regard. But with Cavalli, undergoes the Tommy John March 2023. It obviously cost him all of last season, and it is eating up a good chunk of his 2024 season. And let's all keep this in mind, okay? And I know this isn't necessarily top of mind, but these seasons are eating up his service time. These seasons are counting against his service time. You are in effect losing a season and a half, maybe ultimately almost 2 full seasons of service time of Cade Cavalli to this Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, he's made 1 big league start and he's going to be like arbitration eligible here before too long. Not ideal, not the way that you wanted this to go, obviously. You just hope, eventually here we do get to see him pitch and that once he is good to go, there are no more issues, go out there and pitch and do what he can do for you. Again, though, it's been such an important development for this team, what has happened with Irvin and Parker and Herz and Gore, even though, he was being counted on all along. For those other 3 guys to be as good as they have been, that has been a saving grace because this team would really be up a creek right now, if not for the development of these young arms, something that we have waited years and years for this organization to do. You wish they were all healthy, but the depth they now have has allowed the possibility of something going wrong, and in this case, multiple things going wrong, and they still have a 5-man rotation that is more than respectable.
Very much so. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by Mason Kalfas and his team of 10 legal recruiters at Zenith Legal in Washington, D.C. Check out Mason's website today, zenithlegal.com, or call or text Mason anytime, 202-486-3535. You can hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. You can check out our website, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.